So you're thinking about running, but not sure how to take the first step. My name is Brian Patterson, and I'm here to help. Welcome to Brian's Run Pod. Welcome back to Brian's Run Pod, and it's me, your host, Brian Patterson, welcoming you to another edition of the podcast. Well, today we are going to be talking about rest and recovery for runners. When should we recover? How often should we take days off? At the moment, for me, it's not about taking days off. It's about trying to get out and go for a run, which is my problem. But then maybe that's for another podcast. Anyway, for those that don't have that problem, here are some handy tips and guidance about rest and recovery. Also, we'll be looking at the history of another Olympic running event, so more of that later on. So what would happen if you ran every day? Well, you know running is great exercise. You may wonder if running every day is a smart idea. After all, it would seem reasonable that the more you put in, the more you get out. That is true in part, but overlooks one key point. Running places a lot of stress on your body, triggering inflammation, micro tears that need to heal. So without rest, you may end up losing ground rather than gaining it. Running every day might reduce the risk of certain diseases, but it can also lead to injuries and general wear and tear on your feet, legs and joints, as we just said, affecting your overall health and your performance. While those risks are something to consider, there are people who still prefer to go for at least a short run every day and feel they reap the benefits in doing so. You know your body best. When setting your running schedule and deciding whether or not to run every day, weigh the pros and cons. The general consensus is that runners need to take a day to recover at least once a week. Reasons why you might run every day. Despite support for the recovery day or more, there is evidence that running every day may have some benefits. This might come as good news if you just can't imagine a day without lacing up your sneakers. Fortunately, researchers have also shown that it doesn't take a lot of running to reap many of the rewards. One study, for example, found that it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes of running each day to lower your risk of A, cardiovascular disease, B, cancer, C, death from heart attack or stroke, and D, developing neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases. Researchers have also found that engaging in a short-term aerobic exercise, such as running, can also help improve cognitive in aging brains. However, there are no significant benefit to running more than around 4.5 hours a week. But that's kind of, I feel, if you are running an hour each time and you are very much like an intermediate level. This means that rather than logging lots of high impact miles each week, you might gain the greatest benefits by putting in much shorter, more frequent runs. Just 2.5 hours total of running per week was found to have the highest benefits in terms of improving overall longevity. This amounts to around 30 minutes of running per day, 5 days per week. So reasons why you might take rest days. And according to research from the American Council of Exercise, the ACE, the number of rest days you need depends on the type and duration of your workout. While you may need a single day to recover from a 1 mile run, someone else might need 2 or 3 days to recover from running a 10K. Still others may need several weeks. So a 2015 review of studies published in the PLOS, one highlighted the risk of injury due to excessive running. According to research, weekly running distances for between 30 to 39 miles in women and over 40 miles in men increase the risk of acute injury. Overuse injuries such as shin splints, Achilles, and other injuries like plantar fasciitis, stress fractures are very common in runners. Giving the body time to repair from the trauma of a run is thought to reduce the risks of these injuries, which can sideline you for a week to a month or more. the more you may find you feel better and stronger during those runs after a day off. So rest days reduce the amount of cortisol, the so-called stress hormone, which can cause depression, fatigue, irritability, sleep problems, and other health issues if the physical stress levels remain high. They also give you a mental break. It reduces your chances of feeling burned out, bored with running. I know sometimes for me that if I go for a run or sometimes I don't feel that great afterwards, you feel that maybe you should sort of get back into it, or, if you take too much time off, then you're going to suffer mentally, that, you're not getting back into your fitness. But I found that sometimes less is more. I went running today and also went to the gym, and I just felt a lot better. And I think it's because I just gave my body that time to rest and repair. When to take rest days. If you decide that you could benefit from rest days, strategically scheduling them is your next step. The best days for rest will depend on what type of runner you are, when you are typically run for and for how long, and if you're training for a specific event. If you tend to run a lot of miles on the weekends, for example, then Monday might be a good rest day for you. If you're training for a long distance event like a marathon and you do your long runs on a Saturday, you may want to rest the Friday, so you have fresh legs when you hit the trail. Why is it so important that, let's sort of drill down in that. So the principle of progressive overload, which is one of the basic training principles. Fitness gains in running follow the principle of progressive overload. Basically, this is just a fancy way of saying that in order to keep getting better, you need to keep challenging yourself. And in the world of running, this means that if you want to keep seeing improvements in performance, you need to keep challenging yourself with increasingly difficult training. Running the same loop at the same pace day in, day out will get you fit to a point, and then you'll plateau. If you want to keep seeing improvement, you have to add some intensity or additional mileage into your training. So that intensity may be interval running, so you get your heart rate up. So with that in mind, following the principle of progressive overload, you may be tempted to keep adding more and more mileage and intensity to your workouts in order to see incredible gains in performance. But let's not get so fast, and let's try and keep this in perspective. No one could keep making their workouts longer and harder indefinitely. It's not humanly possible. Training actually causes micro damage to your body's tissues, and if they are not allowed to recover, you'll not only see the fitness gains you've hoped for, but will also likely end up injuring yourself. The role of impact forces. Why is running different? Unlike endurance sports like cycling or swimming, running involves impact forces. These impact forces increase breakdown, thus decreasing the total amount of work you can do before getting injured. That is why top runners train at most 14 hours per week, while the top cyclists and swimmers can train twice as much. Impact forces are the reason rest days are important for runners. The most impact-related injuries developed over time, but once they reach a tipping point, they often manifest themselves rather quickly. Rest days, when used strategically over the course of a training cycle, can heal budding injuries, and before you even know they exist. Training without proper rest has also been shown to lead to a myriad of not-so-fun effects, such as decreased performance, constant fatigue, overuse injuries, altered hormones, poor sleep patterns, decreased immune function, and loss of appetite and mood swings. Maybe it's not such a good idea to train like a mad person. So adaptation and rest, no matter how fantastic you feel afterwards when you go out for a run, you're not actually gaining any fitness while you're out there. The gains in fitness happen after the workout, when you're sitting on the couch and being absolute laziest version of yourself as possible. A bit counterintuitive, but I know, but a slight shift in thinking sheds a lot on light on why rest is so incredibly important. The workout is the stimulus. The rest is when you reap the benefits. You need the workout in order to provide the rest that will make your body adapt and grow stronger. But without the rest, all you've done is break down your body without gaining any benefits. Taking a rest day allows your body to absorb the training, adapt to stress and grow stronger than before. And it also ensures that you're on the days you're on, which allows you to gain more from future workouts. You might be asking, what's the difference between the recovery run and rest day? Some serious runners prefer to rely solely on recovery days, substituting slower runs at anywhere from 50 to 75% of the maximum heart rate for a true days off. Recovery runs can actually accelerate the recovery process by increasing blood flow, plus they have the same aerobic benefit. A general guideline for a recovery run for, let's say, a marathon pace, plus 1 minute through closer to marathon pace if you are newer to running. These runs are not necessarily slow when you are fit. They can even be somewhat fast, especially near the end. However, when they are most positive, recovery runs still involve impact forces, because you are running, to stressing the joints, tendons, and ligaments. Even the slowest recovery pace can exacerbate a stress fracture. So while rest days may be worse from the pure performance perspective and from how much pizza you can eat for your lunch perspective, any gains from recovery runs can rendered moot by being injured for weeks or months. So I think if you are starting out, and I know this podcast is for beginners, I think it's better off to have a day off rather than have those recovery runs. So why should you take at least one day off or more from the training week? As we said, when we're starting out a new training plan, you quickly realize there's a lot to do, and that's on top of all other things in your day-to-day life. So when you see the word rest on your schedule, it's tempting to skip past it and look for the next real to do. After all, why would you do nothing when there's always something to cross off long to-do list? In a Runner's World article, they say the answer into the question is simply not running. It's just important as fitting in that long weekend run or that Tuesday speed session. Rest days help to strengthen your body, sharpen your mind, boost your motivation levels so that you can actually want to get out for your next run. Rest is not a four-letter word, says Dr. Kevin Vincent, director of the University of Florida Running Medicine Clinic in the US. The big reason you need it is to recover and recuperation. Every time you run, your body has to adapt to get stronger. And that's because when you run, you aren't just building your stamina and strength, you're also breaking down your body, causing those tiny amount of tissue damage with every step and allowing yourself time to recover afterward is what makes it possible for you to come back better next week, next month, next race, as we said before. As much as athletes focus on their volume of training and the speed at which they do workouts, what they do outside of running is equally important to becoming stronger and more resilient in the future, says Adam Tenforde, assistant professor of the physical medicine and rehab at Harvard University in the US and a former elite runner. Dr. Bonnie Marks, a staff physiologist at New York University Sports Performance Center, agrees if you don't have time to recharge, it can lead to staleness, general apathy about training. In other words, rest right, you'll run better, avoid time on the physio's treatment table, stay motivated, and gain more reward from your running. Fail to rest properly, and you'll slowly or sometimes rather rapidly fall apart. Follow these training tweaks to optimize recovery and build a stronger and a more rested you. So let's have a look at 8 running recovery tips to help you recover quickly. It's easy to think you've earned those fitness gains while you're sweating, but that's only part of the puzzle. You also need that hilly 10K slog or lung burning interval track session to trigger those improvements. But it's actually during recovery, as we've said, where the real magic happens. So in this article by velaforte.com, I will give a link to all the articles I've come across for the podcast in the show notes. They list the following. Go easy on the final stretch. When they say, when I first started running, I always gave in to the temptation to sprint the last stretch of my runs, says Kieran. And I'm guilty as anyone we know, let's say, sprint the last interval. But now I always drop the intensity and finish maybe 5 to 10 minutes at a recovery pace. It's a way of sort of cooling down. And after the interval session, this might be a deliberate warm down during tempo runs. And I just drop the effort 10 minutes from home. Flicking to the active recovery mode helps begin the process of flushing the metabolic waste from those muscles. Get some active recovery. Getting your body moving at an extremely low intensity for active recovery sessions is also a powerful tool that helps increase blood circulation and flush out waste. They say, I use this a lot, particularly after marathons or ultras, says Kieran from velaforte.com. The temptation is to hit the sofa and not move is strong, even sitting down straight as soon as you can after crossing the finish line. But I found keep moving slowly, even immediately after a 100k kilometre ultra, those for those ultra marathoners, or a light stroll in the afternoon the next day, often works wonders for easing tightness and fending off DOMs. That means delayed onset of muscle soreness.
Let's take a quick break.
Just a short break to tell you about some exciting news. We have a new feature on the podcast. You can now send me a message. Yep, you heard it right. Brian's Run Pod has become interactive with the audience. If you look at the top of the episode description, tap on Send Us a Text Message. You can tell me what you think of the episode or alternatively, what you would like covered. If you're lucky, I might even read them out on the podcast. Now, back to the podcast. Prioritize good sleep. And I think this is really important. Sleep is the foundation of good recovery. It's during sleep that your brain and body go into restoration overdrive. The NHS here in the UK recommends 6 to 9 hours of nights for sleep. And while this is also personal, if you're training hard, you should aim for the upper end of that. In this article from velaforte.com, they say that they now prioritize sleep as doing two things: going to bed at consistent times and getting out of bed at the same time every day within 5 minutes of waking up. This has had the biggest impact on sleep quality and gives the bedrock on which to build tough training schedules. Now, I'm testament to this, and I have at least 6 hours. If I have less than 6 hours of sleep, my energy levels are really low at the end of the day. And especially if you're working full time, you don't really have the motivation to go to the gym because I'm completely deadbeat, too tired to go to the gym after a full day's work. Number 4 in this list, hit the water. You can also take active recovery to the pool to boost your post-run recovery. This is something has been picked up from the England football team coaches during a visit to the St. George's training ground. So the coaches get players to do a series of aqua jogging drills and dynamic stretches like high knees, heel flicks, even lunges in the water. The water pressure helps increase blood flow, while being underwater means all your movements are supported, putting less strain on already tired muscles and joints. And I think that's a great idea. If you are a member of a gym and they have a pool, then maybe just swimming or maybe just walking up and down takes the stress of the impact on the joints. Number 5 in this article from velaforte.com, they say dress to compress. Compression is a common theme in running recovery, and there are a whole range of products to provide it, from compression tights to fancy compression boots. It also follows one basic principle of using constriction to increase the blood flow to key parts of the body, mainly the legs, helping to flush waste faster. They go on to say in the article that during the 190-mile Thames run, this guy Kieran says he wore compression calf sleeves during the run to reduce the micro tears in the muscles. He also slept in a compression tights afterwards to help promote the blood flow and waste clearance. Self-massage, very good idea, this one. And number 6 in this list, spending 10 to 15 minutes daily enjoying what we would loosely when it comes to foam rollers. We could use foam rollers as well, or a spot of self-massage can work wonders. Massage guns and foam rollers, often more targeted light relief to tight muscles and to sore spots. The aim here is consistency. Don't just do this when something starts to feel a bit sore. Do it regularly, after all, and is the best cure for prevention. Number 7 on the list is nutrition. Is an important recovery tool after a long, tough run. Taking on carbs to replace the energy lost during exercises boosts glycogen stores, while protein will help repair the muscles and muscle soreness. The best time to start refueling is within 30 minutes of exercise. But it doesn't stop there. As they say in this article, I'm constantly thinking about how I'm refueling my body for performance and recovery, particularly during a big challenge. That means focusing on real food that's nutrient dense for all the main meals. And when you're putting your body on the line, I find that it pays to reward it with what it really needs. So fuel it. The last one is take a deep breath. So when you run, you put your body under stress. That triggers an automatic physiological response from your nervous system, kicking it into fight or flight mode. This is a great way for running away from lions and finding the energy to clock a new PB. It's not good for recovery. So for recovery to begin, you need to switch back to what they call a parasympathetic mode. The faster you can do this, the better, and guided breathing is a great tool for this. So maybe if you do yoga, I think you probably will know about this, or maybe Pilates, helping you to breathe. So during intense interval sessions, use guided breathing to get heart rate down as quickly as possible and maximizing the recovery time during the next rep. They say here that they found that breathing at an aid stations during ultra runs, during ultra marathons, it's amazing how 5 minutes of focusing on your breathing can help you feel more ready to put in, let's say, another 15 miles on your legs if you're doing ultra marathons. So most running watches or have guided breathing apps. I know on my Apple Watch they do, and it's just a way you can sit still and focus on big, deep, slow breaths and prioritize nasal breathing and try to widen the focus of your vision to make it even more effective tool. So nose breathing and a wider field of vision are both signals to the body that you're in a calm state. So those are 8 tips for running recovery. So go easy in the final stretch, get some active recovery, prioritize good sleep, hit the pool, compression socks, compress your legs, self-massage, eat right, and obviously maybe think about doing some breathing exercises. And also to summarize, I hope I've kind of convinced you it is good to take those active days off to help your body to repair and to help improve your overall fitness. It's not just about doing your training and training hard, but it's also about taking days off. And now it's that time of the podcast where we'll be looking at the 1500 meters at the Olympics. In our series looking at the Olympic running events, this week we look at the 1500 metres. The 1500 metres at the Summer Olympics has been contested since the first edition of the multi-sport event. The men's 1500 metres has been present on the Olympic athletics programme since 1896. The women's event was not introduced until 70 years later. but it has been a permanent fixture since it was first held in 1972. The Olympics final and the World Athletics Championships are the most prestigious 1500-metre races at an elite level. The competition format comprises of 3 rounds of heats, stage, semi-finals, and then typically a final between 12 athletes. The first man to win the 1500 metres was Edwin Flack from Australia in a time of 4 minutes 33.2. The first woman to win the race was Ludmila Bragina in a time of 4 minutes 1.38 from Russia, a full 32 seconds faster than the first man. The current Olympic record is set by Jacobi Ingebrigtsen from Norway in a time of 3 minutes 28.32, and for women, Faith Kipyegon from Kenya in a time of 3 minutes 53.11. I do apologise if I really did completely demolish those names. Only 3 athletes have defended the Olympic 1500 metre title. Tatiana Kazankina became the first person to win 2 gold medals in the event in 1980 and repeating her win in 1976. And soon after, Sebastian Coe became the first man to do so in 1980 and in 1984. Faith Kipyegon is the latest athlete to accomplish the feat by following up her gold medal in 2016 with another at Tokyo 2021. No athlete of either sex has ever won more than 2 medals. Historically, athletes in this event have also had success in the 800 metres at the Olympics. Kelly Holmes was the last athlete to win both events at the same Olympics in 2004. In 2012, the 1500 metre gold medalist Taufik Mafrouli made both podiums without winning gold in 2016. Kenya is the most successful nation in the event, having won 7 gold medals in men and women, and Great Britain has the next highest number of gold medals with 6 in men and women, obviously. The United States is the only nation to have swept the medals in the event, having done so in St. Louis in 1904, albeit in the final between 7 Americans and 2 foreigners. I hope you enjoyed the potted history of the 1500 metres at the Olympic Games. Next week, I hope to cover another event. And that's a wrap for another exhilarating episode of Brian's Run Pod. Thanks for tuning in, folks. As always, we've got your back with all things running. And next week, get ready for some awesome beginner hints and tips to kickstart your running journey. Oh, and before we sign off, exciting news. We're now available on YouTube, so whether you're pounding the pavement or chilling at home, you can catch us there too. Plus, we have a new feature on the podcast. You can now send me a message. Yep, you heard it right. Brian's Run Pod has become interactive with the audience. If you look at the top of the episode description, tap on Send Us a Text Message. You can tell me what you think of the episode, or alternatively, what you would like covered. If you're lucky, I might even read them out on the podcast. Hey, if you want to keep up with the latest updates, behind the scenes fun, and even some exclusive content, make sure to follow me on social media. You can find me on Twitter, or should I say X, at Brian's Run Pod. We've also just launched a shiny new Facebook page. Simply search for Brian's Run Pod and give us a like. And don't forget to hop on over to Instagram, where you can catch all our visual adventures at Brian's Run Pod. For those of you who love diving deep into the episodes, head over to our website, www.briansrunpod.co.uk, and there you'll find detailed show notes, handy chapter markers, make it too easy to navigate through our favourite discussions. Please leave a review, as it will always help others find this podcast. Music is by Happy Days by Stock Audio, not forgetting artwork by Alice Patterson. Till next week, thanks again for listening.